Hello and welcome back to Talking Scheidt, live across Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, of course. Thanks for tuning in this afternoon. Of course, we're going to pour over the weekend's games and dissect what was a brilliant weekend, of course. The last weekend before the post-split fixtures are released today. So with me to do that is Mark McDougall and Blair Meikle, chaps. You all right?
All good, yourself?
Good.
All good. Right, we'll just get cracking then. Yesterday, obviously, Aberdeen 2, Rangers 0. Nearly said it that way about there. Dougs, what did you make of Aberdeen's performance? Obviously, very spirited performance from the Dons, and of course, a disappointing day for Rangers, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm going to go very cliche and say it was the typical game of two halves that people talk about.
Aye.
I thought first half Aberdeen were pretty poor, couldn't really keep hold of the ball. Rangers really should have been at least one goal up, maybe two. And then the second half was the complete opposite. I thought Aberdeen were brilliant in the second half. They didn't give Rangers a second on the ball. Every single player was just really good throughout the team. Even the keeper, Kelly's made a couple of really good saves in the second half as well. One from James Tavernier, I can remember near the end.
Yeah.
I think the first goal is obviously a fluke. I don't think Liam Scales meant that in the slightest. And then the second goal is a really good goal. I think Leighton Clarkson has been brilliant all season. Kind of went under the radar a wee bit when you think about the players at Aberdeen, like Duke and Miofsky are getting a lot of the headlines, and rightly so, because they're scoring the goals. But I think Leighton Clarkson's been really important for them. And that ball in for the second goal is absolutely brilliant. And I think that's now 8 wins in 10 games or something like that for Barry Robson since he took over. So you really can't argue what he's doing. They're in pole position to finish third now, which I think Michael Beale predicted that a few months ago as well, and Hearts fans went mental. But no, I can't see anything other than Barry Robson getting that job permanently now. He's done an absolutely brilliant job, and yeah, it was summed up yesterday by that second half. I thought they were outstanding throughout it.
Yeah, absolutely. Blair, just on Aberdeen, they were magnificent, obviously, as Doug says. But what I noticed was the sort of spirit to just defend, and it was such a strong-willed performance all over the park. They gave everything they had, really. It's surely just really, really invigorating for the fans and attendance. Obviously, against Rangers is a big game for them. Of course, always is a feisty occasion. But just a brilliant showing from Aberdeen yesterday.
Yeah, I actually only watched the second half live, so based on that, I was kind of thinking that Aberdeen were really good value for it. Obviously, Rangers are going to have a lot of the ball, but they made themselves really compact and hard to break down, and then they really did carry a big threat when they went forward. They probably could have scored more goals. Then obviously, as Duke touched on there, from the highlights and from some of the analysis, it seems like the first half was a bit different. But then you still have to give Aberdeen credit for being able to hang on in there, even if they're up against it in the first half, not going to their shell, not just accept that Rangers are going to have the lion's share of everything, and then come back out in the second half and turn in that performance that they did. It was really quite brilliant, and I would agree with what Doug was saying there on Barry Robson. I don't think they can really ignore him now, unless obviously they're going to lose every game between the end of the season, but I don't think they will. I think he'll be the manager next season.
Yeah, I doubt. We'll just touch on Rangers. They simply really didn't take their chances in that first half. They had so many good chances, didn't they? To go maybe 1 or 2-0 up. Because as you say, they were quite good in the first half. Obviously, the better team. They should have taken a lead into the break, shouldn't they? And obviously that result now it's not great heading into the big game next weekend, the Old Firm. Confidence maybe down a wee bit now with that result yesterday, but no great from Rangers.
Yeah, I think I said it yesterday. It's one of those games that kind of summed up the entire Rangers season. They've not been able to take their chances all season. I think you look at the front three and they just don't have great numbers in general. I think obviously Tillman was playing further forward yesterday, so he's one of the few that does have good numbers over the course of the season. But you look at Sakala, he misses a lot of those chances like the one he missed yesterday. He should not be missing that chance if you're a striker. 1-on-1. It's not even like Kel Roos was forced into a brilliant save. He basically didn't have to do much. It was straight at him. Obviously, there was the Morelos chance as well, which Leighton Clarkson cleared off the line. That was a brilliant clearance. And then Nico Raskin had a big one as well, which was blocked well. But even then, I think that may have been going wide when it really shouldn't have, where he was. And then they just couldn't keep him out at the other end, and that's kind of summed up their season as well. I think seen a stat on Twitter earlier that 40% of the shots on target this season against Rangers have ended up in goals, and it's just not really an acceptable figure at a team like Rangers. It kind of summed up a lot of the campaign. So yeah, going into Sunday, it's going to be a worry for Michael Beale if he doesn't get Connor Goldson back, especially. I think he improves that defence so much. That was the other stat I seen was that Rangers points per game with Goldson in the team is something like 2.7, and without him is 1.7. So straight away you're losing a lot when you don't have Goldson playing. So getting him back will be important, but just in general, it's just I think a lot of Rangers fans are just desperate for this season to end and get rid of a few of the players that are in that team and try start again from next season. But yeah, it's going to be a long day on Sunday if they don't have Connor Goldson back, I think.
Yeah, those stats are quite damning actually, in terms of Connor Goldson being in the team and out of the team. Alrighty, we'll go to Celtic Motherwell, of course, a 1-1 draw at Parkhead. Dukes, you actually took this one in for Football Scotland on Saturday. Obviously the Hoops' 100% home record in the league came to an end. For you, why did Celtic only pick up a point in this game?
I think they really missed both Jota and Rio Hatate. They just didn't seem to have that same cutting edge going forward, especially. Haksabanovic also played off the right this week, and he wasn't really in the game. Ended up getting hooked quite early in the second half. They brought on O up front, and he wasn't great either when he came on. He obviously missed a sitter. They just didn't seem to have the same threat going forward. And I know that gets to that stage of the season where they've won the league already. Obviously not officially, but everybody knows they've won the league. You can take your foot off the gas a wee bit, but I don't even think it was that because they were still playing with the same tempo, the same drive to get forward, but they just didn't have the same cutting edge in the final third. Even the goal they scored, it was Cam Gregor's shot from 30 yards, and it took a horrible deflection off. I think it was Dan Casey and went past Liam Kelly. But apart from that, there's only 2 or 3 chances really in the game where I thought Celtic really cut Motherwell open. And one of them was a cross that O put wide. But in general, I just don't think they were very good on Saturday. It just didn't feel like the same Celtic team that have been playing all season, which will also be a worry to Ange Postecoglou, but at the same time, he'll just hope that they get back to normal on Sunday. And I think the biggest thing was towards the end of the game, Celtic changed their back three, and it's just something you don't see Ange Postecoglou do, is changes the system. But he went to a back three, took Greg Taylor off, played Alistair Johnson as a third centre-back, and it was interesting to see him do that because you don't normally see him panic like that and make those changes. So that'll be interesting to see if he does that again going forward if they need a goal. But obviously, in the grand scheme of things, it didn't really mean much, and in the end, they actually extended their lead over the weekend, so they won't be too disappointed.
Blair, just on Motherwell, obviously that's a brilliant result for Stuart Kettlewell again. Obviously, that Kevin Van Veen goal was tremendous, wasn't it? I mean, great solo effort. He absolutely bamboozled him. Greg Taylor as well. He was spinning him inside out. And as I say, what finish from the big man. I mean, 24 goals overall this season for him. He's obviously out of contract in the summer as well. You'd have to say that Motherwell would do really well to keep him because he's just been outstanding this season, hasn't he?
Yeah, the only thing that might put sort of potential suitors off is his age. I think he's 32, is he?
31, I think, Blair.
31, right. So that might be something that could potentially work in Motherwell's favour in terms of putting teams off. But yeah, his form in recent weeks has been incredible. I can't remember exactly what the goals to games return is, but I think he's possibly got more goals than games in the last 5 or 6 games or something like that.
Yeah.
I think he started the season really well and maybe had a bit of a dip in the middle, but that's going to happen. You can't keep that form up all season. But just even without him, they've been, since Kettlewell came in, they've been pretty sensational. Obviously, he's a massive part of it, but I don't think he should take all the credit. I think the team in general have been really good. I think Sean Goss has really improved since Kettlewell came in. So to be the only team to take points off Celtic at Parkhead this season from where Motherwell were at the start of the season, it's quite a turnaround. So they'll just hope that obviously they can keep that going forward. And obviously they couldn't quite have their late chance to make the top 6, but they'll probably have designs on finishing 7th, I would imagine, and then being able to build on that going forward next season.
Yeah, brilliant point for Motherwell in Glasgow. Okay, we'll go to Tynecastle. This was an early kick-off, of course, on Saturday. A 6-1 victory for the Jambos. Brilliant result for them, Blair. you have to give them credit, of course, after obviously losing the derby last week. They've bounced back. But I mean, was a lot of it down to maybe Ross County being so very, very poor defensively? Because it was a horror show for them, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's quite a weird one because before the game, Ross County had the best defensive record outside the Celtic and Rangers, and it was the other end of the pitch that was their problem that had been keeping them down the bottom end. So it's hard to pinpoint what happened. Maybe it was just the way that Hearts started the game that sort of spooked them, and the sort of crowd got behind Hearts because they went for it from the start. So that might have been what spooked Ross County, but they were totally all over the shop. I mean, Hearts cut them open it well. They could have scored 10, 11, 12 goals. Obviously hit the bar twice. The keeper made a couple of good saves as well. There's a couple of sitters missed as well. So it could have been double what it was. But Ross County obviously is looking worrying for them now. They're obviously cut adrift at the bottom. And like I say, it was defensive solidity that was their sort of main attribute, and it was scoring goals that was a problem. So now that they've sort of lost that as well, it's really difficult to see where they go from there. With obviously Dundee United on great form and stuff as well. So it's not looking good for Malky Mackay now.
Yeah, they're 4 adrift, I think, now. Between Kelly and United. So yeah, difficult times for County. But Doug, just on Hearts, I mean, with that result, they're obviously right back in the hunt for third place. I mean, they always were in it, but that's a confidence boosting win, of course. They are 5 points behind Aberdeen though, which is a pretty decent gap. For you, do you think Aberdeen will eventually finish third? Do you think Hearts just don't have enough? That 5 points is too much?
Yeah, I think Hearts are decent, but I just think the way Aberdeen have been playing under Barry Robson, I can't see them dropping enough points for Hearts to overtake them. I do think they looked brilliant on Saturday again, though. It was good to see them back to what they've been doing at times. I thought Lord Shankland especially was excellent. It's not somebody that there's been times that I've probably criticised him a bit for his play outside the box at times. I've never really seen what other people seem to see in him, but on Saturday I thought he was excellent at it. I thought he linked up the play brilliantly and really got involved, and his 3 goals were good as well. I think the third one especially, I think it was the third one where he chipped it over.
That was beautiful.
That was an excellent goal.
Yeah.
And just in general, Hearts played really well. I think the other players, like the likes of Oda, I think it was only his second start. I thought he played really well. Probably should have scored at least once, but in general, I thought he was brilliant. And Alex Cochrane as well was another one I thought was excellent. I think he'd been out of the team a wee bit recently and not really played much, which I was surprised at because I always really like him. Yeah, I thought he was really good on Saturday and deserved his goal.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant day for Hearts on Saturday. All right, we'll go to Paisley. St Mirren 0, Kilmarnock 2, of course. Dukes, I'll start with you. I mean, an outstanding result for Derek McInnes on Saturday. It's Kelly's first league win in the road for 417 days, which is tremendous. It's incredible. Obviously putting a damper on St Mirren's top 6 celebrations, of course. But the fact that they've got that monkey off their back, the away record obviously been absolutely horrendous this season. And to do it against St Mirren on the day of all days, they're celebrating potentially getting into the top 6. They did get into it, obviously, of course, other results went their way, but that's just going to breed so much confidence for Kelly going into the split, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think if they'd went into the split without having that away win at all, then it's going to be tough. You've got 2 big games, or at least 2 big games away from home after the split. So getting that out of the way was brilliant. I thought from the highlights, I thought Kelly were really good and deserved it as well. I think the second goal, especially Christian Doid's header, was really, really good. And I don't think St Mirren really seemed to threaten them at all. I thought McInnes seemed to get it right. I think he's had a criticism from Kilmarnock fans this season for his team selection and stuff, but seemed to get it really right at the weekend. And there seems to be a few players there that are starting to hit a bit of form and doing well for them. I think the young midfielder Watson seems to get really. And from the highlights again, I also didn't see the match live, but from the highlights he looked really good again. There's a few others as well. So yeah, it's got to give them a big boost going into the last few games now. Yeah,
Blair, quite a surprising defeat for St Mirren, of course. You probably say that nerves maybe got the better of them on the day. But as I said, results went their way. Obviously, Livingston didn't win against Dundee United, so it didn't really matter in the end up. But that's the first time they've reached the top 6 ever since the split was sort of introduced. So it's just a brilliant achievement for St Mirren, over the course of the whole season. Stephen Robinson's done a tremendous job, hasn't he?
Yeah, it is definitely. I think a lot of people were maybe watching to see if they would sort of bottle it again after coming close a couple of times in recent years. So obviously they almost did. I think maybe the occasion maybe did get to the players a wee bit on the day. In which case that could potentially be quite worrying for them, because obviously getting into the top 6 means they've got big games coming up. So it could, in terms of like they've made the top 6, but it could mean that it's a sort of miserable end to the season for them. But yeah, it's a great achievement for Stephen Robinson to take them from where they were at the start of the season. I think they struggled a bit in the League Cup group, and people were maybe tipping them for relegation. So to be so far away from that is really good with such a strong home record. So even if they do go and lose every game in the split, I think they can still be very, very pleased with their season's work, and obviously they would then look to go and take that on to next season. They'll hope they can hang on to players like Bacchus and Ryan Strain would be brilliant for them, and Mark O'Hara as well. And Robinson's getting the best out of guys like Curtis Main as well. I think that's probably Main's best season for a long time anyway. So they'll look to maybe go and add a couple to complement that and go again next season. But obviously it'll be tough to replicate what they've done this time.
Yeah, and as you say, it will be tough to keep hold of those star players that they've got that have been really, really good for them this season. Right, okay, we'll go to St Johnstone Hibs now. It was a 1-1 draw in Perth, of course. Hibs also securing their top 6 place. A point was enough on the day. Dukes, I mean, you'd have to say that if Lee Johnson didn't get Hibs into the top 6 and it was a disaster on Saturday, then it might have been curtains for him at sort of the end of the season. Hibs fans would really not be pleased with that, but they've managed to do it, and he'll be delighted that they're still in with a chance of maybe getting a European place.
Yeah, and I still think they need to get that European place. I don't think 6th is even good enough for Hibs. With the squad they have, I think they're better than 6th place, or they should be, and I just don't think they've been good enough over the course of the season. But they've got there now. They've still got the chance of finishing probably 4th or 5th. Can't see them finishing 3rd at this stage, and it's probably still a stretch for them to finish 4th as well. But I think 5th still gets a European spot this season if Real Form wins the cup. But in general, it's just not been a good enough season for them. Even on Saturday, the mistake for the goal is like David Marshall was just terrible at it. Tim Nisbet wasn't great at it either. He seemed to let it go past them, and it just kind of summed up their entire season as well. I think they've been one of those teams that they'll win a couple of games and look great, and then all of a sudden draw at St Johnstone, get beat by Dundee United, stuff like that, get beat by teams that they really shouldn't be. But yeah, they've also got a big few games coming up there. I think I seen it earlier that they've actually got more points against the teams in the top 6 than the bottom 6, so maybe that's going to be good for them towards the end of the season. That'll kickstart Lee Johnson's time at the club.
It's a very Hibs thing, isn't it, this season, having more points than the teams that they would expect to beat. But yeah, we have to touch on that James Jekyll tackle that has sparked again so much controversy, very similar to the Graham Shinnie debacle last week. Obviously, Hibs appealed it straight away. Amazingly, some people, namely the former ref this morning, Stuart Dougal on the BBC Vardic show, saying that it was a leg-breaking challenge. I mean, it's quite incredible, isn't it? I mean, is there any case, Blair, for it to be a red card at all?
No, absolutely not. For me, it's not a foul. If I was on the receiving end of that tackle, I would not bat an eyelid. I wouldn't appeal for a foul. So it's mental. I can see why people are making the comparison to Shinnie, but it's not even anywhere near as bad as that. And I think I said on here last week that I don't like to see tackles like the Shinnie one given as red cards. So the fact that Jekyll's is nowhere near that means that obviously I don't think it is either. Like if we're going to start worrying about, he might have hurt his opponent, just stop playing football then, because you might hurt somebody at any given moment. What's the point?
It's a contact sport, and it's slowly becoming a non-contact sport, isn't it? With these sort of decisions, and a red card like that, it's just crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I just don't understand it. Like Blair said, I don't think it's a foul at all, let alone a yellow card or a red card. It's just I don't see how he gave it like that. The fact he gave it so quickly as well. He was standing right in front of it and he's whipped out the red card straight away. It was a really bizarre decision. But yeah, I don't even think it's comparable to the Shinnie one, like as mentioned. Like you can understand why the Shinnie one was given as a red card, I think, because he is quite high after he goes through the ball. But
Yeah,
Diego's on the ground, he's sliding, he's
it's
won the
much
ball
more.
50-50. I just don't understand it at all. I don't think it was a free kick, let alone anything else. And I get the point of why VAR can't intervene at that point, like Stuart Dougal was talking about, because obviously it has to be a clear and obvious error, and the ref saying that it's a lunge, blah blah blah. But it's just ridiculous. There's no way that should be a red card.
Yeah, it's wild, absolutely wild. Just briefly on the Saints player, I mean, they have to be really careful now because they're getting dragged back into the sort of relegation mire. That their home form isn't good at all. Obviously, they got a point against Hibs, which is okay, I suppose. But you know, Hibs were down to 10 men, of course, with that red card, and they couldn't capitalise. But they've got to be careful now, and they've got work to do, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of a fan base that should be worried about slipping into the relegation, the playoff spot, I think they're probably the ones that'll be most worried.
Right.
Just because of the momentum that Dundee United have obviously picked up and look like they'll carry on, and obviously Kilmarnock got a massive win, sort of monkey off the back away win at the weekend as well.
Yeah.
So that would suggest that St Johnstone have got a lot to be worried about. Obviously, if they're basing it on their own performance on Saturday, then they'll think that they might be fine. Just obviously, Stephen McLean's come in and he seems to have got a reaction out of them. He's got a good performance out of them. And on the face of it, a point against Hibs is pretty decent. And they possibly could have won it. So if they're basing it just on that alone, then they might think that they'll be fine. But it's just the fact that obviously Dundee United and Kilmarnock are starting to pick up points at the right time. Might be a bit worrying for St Johnstone fans.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting run-in, definitely, at the bottom. All right, the last game of the weekend, of course, was Dundee United 2, Livingston 0. That's another win for Jim Goodwin and Dundee United against, I mean, what is now a Livy side who are really just sort of petering the season out, really. But Dougs, I mean, that's 3 in a row for Jim Goodwin now in the league. What do you think Goodwin sort of brings to this squad that gets the best out of them now that previous managers this season haven't?
That's a good question because I don't really know. I just think he's went in there and just let the players play. I think Jamie McGrath over the last few weeks has been really good, whereas he wasn't really earlier in the season. I don't know if that's been down to the tactics or just letting him off his leash. But I mean, we've seen what McGrath can do in Scotland over the last couple of seasons when he's been here, and Goodwin's getting the best out of him again. That's really helping because I don't think Fletcher's playing particularly better, but he's getting a lot better service and he's scoring goals now.
Yeah.
And then again, like I said, McGrath's first goal at the weekend was excellent. And yeah, they're in brilliant form just now. Like, I'd be surprised if they end up in the playoffs at this stage. Whereas a month ago, I thought they were done. I thought they were down and out, finishing bottom. So it's been a brilliant turnaround for them. He's done an absolutely brilliant job there. And you know what? It was a risk for him to go in there in the first place because obviously when he left Aberdeen, his reputation's gone down. And if he'd got Dundee United relegated, even though they were bottom of the league at the time, it's going to drop again. But all of a sudden, he's got them out of that situation. They're winning games. They're playing good football. And all of a sudden, people are interested in him again. So it was a risk that he took, and he's done well with it.
Oh, yeah. Big credit to Jim Goodwin. But Blair, I mean, that was my next point. I mean, do you think United have a serious chance now of maybe even finishing as high as 9th? I mean, as Doug says, I mean, they're rock bottom of the league for so long, even when Jim Goodwin came in at the start. But he's turned it around, and it's actually really astonishing to say that, you know, that they could actually end up finishing 9th above the likes of, you know, St Johnstone, Kelly, and Ross County.
Yeah, definitely. It's not as if they've just been picking up points here and there either. Like that's a few wins in a row now, so it's really consistent form, playing really well. They're not scraping wins, and they're not lucky wins. So Goodwin really has made a sort of transformative effect. So they'll be so confident now going into the rest of the games with the teams round about them, teams that they've already beaten, that they can carry it on. So I would predict that as well, that they won't finish in the bottom 2. But then even if they do, even if they end up slipping down again, I think they would back themselves to beat whoever they would play in the playoffs as well.
Yeah.
And then you would think that if they do stay up, Goodwin will get the job permanently. And then Dundee United, if they do manage that, Dundee United is a club with such massive potential. that you think Goodwin can continue to get the best out of them next season, and who knows how much higher they could be.
Yeah, you think either way that, playoffs or not, that they are going to stay up just with the momentum they've built under Goodwin. But just finally, quickly on Livy, Dougs, I mean, I think you said it on Saturday actually that Martindale will be really kicking himself, given what happened elsewhere in terms of the sort of top six battle, and he's lost the game to Dundee United, who across the season have been really poor. Of course, they've had a resurgence under Goodwin, but when you look at it, it was probably still a winnable fixture, especially with what was riding on it. And they didn't manage to capitalise. I mean, it's still a decent season for Livingston. We all talk about the budget that they've got, one of the lowest in the leagues. And if they do end up finishing seventh, then it still will be a good season for them, won't it?
Yeah, I think any season that Livingston stay in the top flight is a good season for them. But at the same time, I think at the World Cup break, when they broke up for the World Cup, they were in fourth place.
Aye.
And at that point, I thought they could be challenging for third. They should be right up there. But after the World Cup break, they just didn't seem to come back in the same level of form. I don't know what it was, but they just didn't seem to get going again. And that's the second year in a row now where they've missed out on top six on the last day. Obviously, this time it was a bit harder given that they needed results to go their way, but in the end, the results did go their way. They just didn't do their own bit. Martindale will be frustrated with that. And I think the fans are a wee bit frustrated by that too, because I think for quite a while they've been talking about how they wanted top six, how they wanted Europe. So it'll be frustrating for them. But like I said, any season they finish 10th and above is a good season for Livingston for me.
Yeah, without a doubt, as you say, they will be frustrated. But take a step back, and it is a good season for Livingston. It's mid-table. So yeah. All righty, that's it then. We'll wrap it up there. Of course, we've got the post-split fixtures coming out today, so stick with us, on our social channels, and we'll get all the information out to you. Always an exciting day when the post-split fixtures are announced. So I guess we're just sort of waiting on that. But for now, thanks very much, Dougs and Blair, for joining me today on the live. Thanks very much, everyone, for watching as well. And we will speak very soon. Thanks for watching.
Cheers.